Harry seems to have a deal with the BBC for exclusive access, after accusing his family of doing the same. The hypocrisy escapes him and Meghan because of utter selfishness and vanity. There's something suspicious afoot with Harry and the BBC, beginning with his exclusive interview in May 2025 after the loss of his case against the Home Office. It was not so much the exclusivity as the lack of journalistic integrity. BBC interviewer Nada Tawfik did not challenge Harry's claims of an establishment stitch-up. Basically, Harry accused the UK government and his relatives of collusion and of wanting him and his family dead. There was barely any pushback on the part of Tawfik. BBC was just Harry's mouthpiece. This highlights Harry's hypocrisy, although I'm not certain if his sub-average intelligence has more to do with it. Harry's beef with the media began with his mother's death. It is his staunch belief that Diana was virtually killed by reporters through their relentless pursuit. He has ignored multiple facts in the case, namely Diana's role in her own demise, which involves unscrupulous BBC journalist Martin Bashir. It later turned out that Bashir fabricated evidence to convince Diana that Charles wanted her out of the way. It fed into Diana's paranoia, such that she dismissed her own protection officers. This contributed to her death when her boyfriend Dodi Al-Fayed's security team took unnecessary risks in eluding paparazzi. William immoderately denounced the BBC and said Bashir's deception factored into his parents' estrangement. Normally, the family does not comment on the Third Estate, such as on the biased documentary, The Princes and the Press, by Amol Rajan, and such was the strength of his feelings on the matter that William did not hesitate to voice his anger. Harry also spoke out against the BBC, but his latest actions show that what he's doing may be much worse than the invisible contract, which he always decried. The BBC's positive coverage of Harry seems highly suspect given his vaunted donation of £1.1 million to BBC's Children in Need. Supporters may excuse this transaction. After all, don't the royals have arrangements with the media as well? What's wrong with giving money to a charity? They missed the part where the deal with the firm does not exclude negative news, which Harry and Meghan said was the cause of their departure. The palace does its best to ensure publicity for its endeavors. After all, it would benefit the UK if the royals' local causes are supported. But the palace cannot tell reporters what not to write, as long as their content are within reasonable boundaries. This is why the family just told Harry to ignore negative reporting, as there's no use in chasing down every unfavorable article. However, Harry's suspicion of reporters was exacerbated by Meghan, who found it to her advantage to drive a wedge between Harry and everyone else. It wasn't hard to feed into his existing paranoia. Neither of the Sussexes find any irony in briefing the BBC for their own purposes, while complaining if others do the same. Meghan is too manipulative, and Harry is too stupid to feel any guilt over this. However, given Harry's dismal crowd support, I don't think his newfound friendship with the BBC will do any good. Most of the UK are already aware that he has betrayed them and would say anything for his and Meghan's benefit. Perhaps the BBC hopes to sway the online narrative, which is overwhelmingly American, and guide public opinion towards republicanism, which in the UK means the abolition of the monarchy. Typically, the Sussexes only view short-term gains and don't foresee how this can harm them in the end. The abolition of the monarchy will render their titles useless and drive them into further irrelevance. They're being used by institutions which would want to remove the stabilizing influence of the British monarchy. This ongoing drama has many underlying forces. But for the Sussexes, they're living only for the fame and the money. Nada Tawfik and the softball interview. The interview itself was a masterclass in controlled media. The interviewer, Nada Tawfik, a respected journalist known for her work in the US, was expected to ask the hard questions. She was expected to hold his feet to the fire. After all, Harry had just lost a major legal battle against the British government. His credibility was at an all-time low. This was the moment for a proper journalistic interrogation. But that's not what happened. The interview was a procession of softballs. Tawfik listened with a sympathetic nod as Harry spoke of his last resort legal action, his shocking truths, and the reckless action of the Home Office. She let him repeat his long-held grievances without challenge. There was no real interrogation, no pushback, no attempt to verify his claims. When he spoke of his sense of grievance, she didn't ask why that should entitle him to special treatment. She didn't ask about the astronomical cost of his legal fees. She simply nodded. The contrast with his brother's approach to the media is stark. Prince William and the palace understand the delicate, unspoken compact of the British press. Some negative coverage is the price of their position. They play the long game. They grit their teeth, they move on, and they work behind the scenes. They don't launch an all-out, public war. They don't try to silence and control every narrative. They accept that, for the institution to survive, a certain amount of negative, and at times unfair, scrutiny is a necessary evil. But Harry's approach, driven by what many in the UK view as an almost paranoid crusade, is to fight every single battle. He has a right to legal recourse, of course. But what we saw on the BBC was a strategic masterstroke, a move so calculated it was chilling. The timing was no coincidence. The donation was no coincidence. And the softball questions were certainly no coincidence. This wasn't journalism. This was an infomercial, a PR stunt dressed up in the cloak of a public service broadcaster. The BBC's motives: money, influence, or the monarchy's demise. So, the big question remains: why would the BBC, a public institution dedicated to impartiality, play along? Why would they risk their reputation to give a platform to a man whose war on the press is so well documented? Could it be about money? The BBC, like all media outlets, is under immense financial pressure. The £1 million donation to children in need, while technically a separate charity, is a massive sum of money. Could it be a veiled thank you? A down payment on future access? Could the promise of exclusive content and a renewed relationship with the Sussex brand be enough to make the BBC bend its own rules? The thought is enough to make a license fee payer's blood run cold. Or is it about influence? The BBC has long been accused of harboring Republican sympathies, of being too progressive, too woke for some. Could they be actively trying to destabilize the monarchy by providing a stage for its most vocal critic? By elevating Harry, they might be chipping away at the foundations of an institution they feel is outdated. By giving him a platform to air his grievances and cast himself as a victim, they are implicitly validating his narrative and giving ammunition to those who wish to see the monarchy abolished. Then, of course, there is the Meghan factor. Some sources whisper that the Duchess of Sussex, a master of media manipulation and brand building, orchestrated the entire thing. She has a deep understanding of the US media landscape, where this kind of symbiotic relationship between a celebrity and a network is not just common, but expected. Could she have seen an opportunity to leverage Harry's legal defeat into a media victory, using the BBC as a vehicle to reshape public opinion in a country where they have become increasingly unpopular? Whatever the reason, the outcome is the same. The BBC, an institution that William so rightly accused of contributing to his mother's paranoia and isolation, has now become a willing accomplice in Harry's own media war. Short-term gain, long-term collapse. It all feels like a masterful chess game, but one with a fatal flaw. Harry and Meghan have been brilliant at playing the victim, at using their royal connections to fuel their global brand. But what happens if the monarchy they so willingly attack is actually abolished? Public sentiment in Britain is a complex beast. Polls show that support for the monarchy has fallen to an all-time low, particularly among young people. The monarchy is not as strong as it once was, and this constant stream of negative press, the infighting, and the public drama, is eroding it from the inside out. And what happens if the monarchy finally crumbles? Harry and Meghan's entire brand is built on being royal. They are the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and a prince. Their entire story, their entire grievance, is derived from their relationship to that institution. If the monarchy is no more, what do they become? The Duke and Duchess of what was? Harry, just a man, not a prince? Their short-term gains, the exclusive interviews, the brand partnerships, the high-profile charity donations, may be a poisoned chalice. They are sawing off the very branch they are sitting on. If the monarchy is abolished, their brand, built on the very power they despise, will become irrelevant. They will be just another couple in California, with no real claim to fame other than having once been royal. It's a chilling thought. A final word, a tale of two brothers. In the end, this is a tale of two brothers. Prince William, the heir to the throne, has been forced to accept the difficult, and at times unbearable, role that history has given him. He has been forced to accept that the institution he is to lead is imperfect, and that the media that surrounds it is a necessary, if flawed, part of the process. He plays the long game. And then there is Harry, the younger brother, a man who has chosen to wage a public, and now deeply hypocritical, war. He has chosen to turn his back on the lessons of his past, ignoring the deceit of the very network he now embraces. He has chosen to fight fire with fire, not realizing that he is burning down the very house he once lived in. The BBC has made its choice. They have sided with the rebel, the outsider, the man who wants to tear down the system. But what is the price of this alliance? And when the dust settles, will there be anything left? Only time, and a few more exclusive interviews, will tell. And you, the reader, must ask yourself, when a prince and a broadcaster enter into a deal behind closed doors, a deal built on hypocrisy and a mutual need for relevance, who truly wins? And who loses everything?